No matter where you come from, no matter where you're going, here's a place where you can take comfort in the knowing that whether if you come to stay a while or just passing through, this door is open to you. Come and let's be silent. Come and share a hug. Come, let's pray together. Come, love and be loved. From the blissed out to the turned out, from the pampered to the abused, this door is open to you. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. Come on in. The God in us recognizes the God in you. The God in you. Whether you're black or white or gay or straight, Christian, Buddhist or Jew, this door is open to you.
Good morning, Claremont Center for Spiritual Living. How are you this morning? Okay, nice to see all of you. Make sure we wave hello to our friends who are joining us online. Or it's always good to come together in community, whether in the same physical space or not. Because what we know is that in God there is no time and space. There is only that consciousness connection that we are all a part of. And it is good to come together and remind ourselves of that, to remind ourselves that life is greater than the everyday, that there's more going on than what we can see at any one moment, and that in supporting each other on this walk of life, what we're doing really is lifting and uplifting each other all along the way. So it's good, and I'm so glad you're all here. I'm Reverend Tracy. If I haven't met you before, welcome. And know that wherever you are on your spiritual path, you are welcome here with us. So this morning, we have a new face, not totally new, but new to some of you. As our practitioner, Pat Fromer is returning to our practitioner corps. Happy to have her back. And this morning, our musical expertise is provided by Drac over here. He's going to be playing on piano a little bit later, so glad to have you, Drac. And what do you say we get started? Let me get my bowl. Because this is the tone that we allow to take us within. So if you will, if you're comfortable, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and listen to the sound of the bowl. And breathe into that heart space, that place of sanctuary within your very being. For it is in this place that we remember that you and I and Spirit are all one.
Good morning. Take a deep, cleansing breath. Release everything that it took to get yourself here. Allow that essence to flow through you, knowing there is one life, one truth, one power in the universe. And that truth, that power, that life is God's. For there is nowhere where God is not. And God is within me, as it is within everything and everyone. And I know that this service goes exactly as it needs to go. It flows with such ease and grace, and everyone comes away with just a little bit of what it is that they needed to hear and experience. So join me. I know this is all good and very good. And join me in saying, and so it is. And good morning again. And my reading for today comes from the introduction to Spiritual Mind Treatment, 5 Steps to Freedom, from John B. Waterhouse, PhD, who was one of our spiritual leaders. Consider the idea that one expressing through you, as you, is indeed the creator of all life. Consider additionally the idea that what distinguishes you from the next person expressing as spirit is your outward appearance, the physical form, and your personality, the mental form. These are the masks that we wear to maintain our illusion of separateness. But why would spirit do so many of the things I've done in my life, you might ask? Well, why not? Whether or not we're happy with the conditions of our life is no indication of the presence or the absence of spirit. When we judge our actions by labeling some as good, the things we think God would approve of, and some as bad, things that we think that God would not approve of, then life becomes a complicated matrix of judgments that a living increasingly seems more difficult, challenging, and confusing. We have created, or more likely been given, a limiting self-image that includes ideas of failure, inadequacies, and things that do not help us at all. However, if these principles, which suggest spirit is all there is, are true, then everything that exists must be an expression of spirit. Likewise, if spirit is all there is, and spirit is the only presence available to experience these expressions, and we as human beings are fully engaged within the divine flow of consciousness. And as spirit expresses through and as you and me, we are taking that which we are experiencing, judging it, and assigning it to categories of good or bad, right or wrong. We do this to separate and organize our experiences so that we can have a sense of order and safety in our life. We do this as a culture by making agreements about what is appropriate or acceptable to say or do. And then we agree to use these judgments or labels collectively to create an even greater sense of order and safety. Ultimately, there is nothing absolute about our judgments because our perceptions change from circumstance to circumstance. And all of our sense of order and safety is nothing more than an illusion that helps us function in a world that plays well to our physical sense. When we relate to life in absolute terms, there are no judgments of right and wrong, good or bad. In absolute terms, there is no separation between who you are and what spirit is. Thank you.
Good morning. I really like the reading because grief, which is what we're going to talk about today, is one of those emotional experiences that is often labeled as bad by many because it's painful, and we're in a culture that says you should be happy, right? But it's a very sacred emotion. It's a very holy experience, and it is of God. The pieces that I chose today were written when I was in my late teens and early 20s, when I was in therapy for PTSD before they even knew what it was, for child abuse. And at that time in my life, I was grieving the loss of my childhood and my innocence and moving through that. And the reason I chose these today is because as we're looking at grief, we're also in the midst of a sense of grief in our nation, as we grieve the loss of the innocence of several lives of children who are taken away from us. I'm sitting here today and I get to play this music and tell my story, but these children are not. So we bear that in mind as I play this music. Just allow it to take you where you go, and no judgment about wherever you go. Let it be. So.
Thank you, Drac. That was beautiful. Just beautiful. So today, we light our candle in honor of Memorial Day this weekend. This is a holiday that, to me, goes back to the meaning of the word holiday, which is holy day. It is a day of remembrance for those in military service who've lost their lives. And it is a way of honoring and respecting the choices that were made and the acknowledging the family and loved ones left behind who still no matter which conflict it was, still mourn the loss of friends or relatives, or simply the idea that lives are lost in the name of resolving conflict and protecting rights. So to fully be present in the honoring and memorializing of those who have gone before us, whose shoulders we stand on in the freedoms that we enjoy, I'd like to take a moment and just ask if you are a military vet, if you would stand. A couple, thank you. And we thank you for your service and for the loss I'm sure that you incurred as well. And if you are a member of a family where this holiday has special meaning to you, if you will also stand. Friends, relatives lost, family. So we honor you. We honor all of you, and we honor your path, and appreciate your allowing us to recognize your service. You'll notice we have red, white, and blue up front, just for that purpose. You know, we've been talking all month about emotions and their spiritual purpose. You know, our emotional landscape serves as a guidepost and a centering space for each of us, letting us know what we are ready to heal, where our joy and passion is to be found, and helping us to understand how we think about the world has an effect on how we enjoy or don't enjoy the world. And so this weekend it seemed appropriate to focus specifically on the emotion of grief, and not just to honor and remember lives lost, but to acknowledge that grief comes in many forms. You know, we have our personal griefs, we have those things, those personal losses. We've talked all last year about the grieving that was happening during the pandemic of activities lost and connections lost and the restrictions we had on being able to be together in a safe way. But we also have a national grieving going on now, and all of these things affect us, right? We are all resonating with this. And when that grief happens, especially from a distance, when it's a situation that's not imminent in our own lives, it is somewhere out there, it doesn't mean that we're not impacted. And actually, I find that it's a little bit harder to deal with because there's no direct path of resolution or help or support. What we normally do when we grieve is we gather together. We move forward in community or in our family unit or with our friends in order to walk with each other that we might heal in some way. And we can't do that as easily when it's a more remote occurrence. And so we have all of this energy. We have this great sorrow. Maybe we have an outrage. Anger and grief go together quite a bit. And it's because we have an energy that we have no place to put. Or at least it seems like we don't. Or it has sparked a sense of helplessness or hopelessness. When will this ever change? And we're all affected by it. And it shows up, right? It shows up in us and it shows up in others as impatience, right? And as irritation and bad driving and political discussions that get out of hand very quickly, and. In other words, we all feel it. So how does the heart heal? What do we do with that? Our main quote today is Helen Steiner Rice, and she starts off that grief is a solitary journey. No one but you knows how great the hurt is. And just as we were talking about, that each personality is unique to the form that we currently inhabit, this physical body that we're in, the way things affect us uniquely. And what that tells me is that the way to healing is unique to each of us. And I think that's a good thing, because it means we can help each other. It means where I feel strong, you may not. And where you have a way of saying or praying or singing, it might uplift me in a way that maybe you can't do for yourself. And so this is a solitary journey, and yet we benefit from being together. Anne Lamott is one of my favorite authors. And she says, there is a time after our feelings of despair or being stunned and sort of shocked about what has happened, we sigh and help each other to our feet. And we do the next right thing. Because, in the aftermath, the immediate aftermath of trauma, we react from an emotional place because that's how we're hardwired. And then we do something with it. And she talked about after Sandy Hook, the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary, that there were no answers right away as to what happened or how it happened or why it happened or what we could do. And life does slowly come back around again for most of us. And what helped us in that time was sticking together and grieving and understanding that, the families of the children won't get over it. There's no getting over it. That life has changed irrevocably. And we and all of us, we despaired, we blamed, we raged, we prayed, we gathered in community, or we isolated. And that's what we're doing today. Some of us can't eat. Some of us eat everything. Some of us watch the news nonstop. Some of us can't even turn it on. We're everywhere in the spectrum. And the spiritual perspective on all of this is that this one consciousness, this one energy of mind, this one life that we are each experiencing individually is just that. It's one. And so as we come together, we find ways to move forward. And that's what we're talking about today. And it doesn't matter if we're raging together or praying together or crying together or marching together. It's the shared aspect that allows us to see spirit, because spirit lives in and as each of us. We don't talk about God out there. We don't talk to some being out there that's going to come down and do something here. What we understand is that the living spirit of life is within each of us, that all the power of that spirit of life is within each of us, and that through my hands and my feet and my words and your hearts and my smile, all of these things work together to show spirit in the world. We are it. We are it. Steiner Rice goes on to say, comfort comes from knowing that people have made the same journey. And solace comes from understanding how others have learned to sing again. And so healing happens because the evolution of life is also built into us. There is an upward spiral of life and growth and rebirth that we are a part of. And that as things fall apart and come back together again and fall apart and come back together again, this is the process that is moving in us. And so grief is not a negative emotion, as Drac was saying. It is actually part and parcel of all that we are. And the way that we find that comfort, the way that we begin the healing process, is first to feel it, to feel the grief. Because what heals grief is grieving. There is power in letting some of that energy go so that we might have space to move forward. Amanda Gorman is our poet laureate for the country, and she wrote a poem for this today. The first half of it sounds like this. We carry tragedy, terrifying and true, and yet none of it is new. We knew it as home, as horror, as heritage. Even our children cannot be children, cannot be. Everything hurts. It's a hard time to be alive, and even harder to stay that way. We're burdened to live out these days while at the same time blessed to outlive them. This alarm is how we know we must be altered, that we must differ or die, that we must triumph or try. And thus, while hate cannot be terminated, it can be transformed into a love that lets us live. Grief is a transformational process. It transforms the person who is grieving. You are not the same after feeling that grief, right? You can look back into your own life and remember that when you moved through something sorrowful to you, that at the end of that, or at the breaking free of that, what you were left with was a deeper space within your own heart and a little bit of room for love and healing to begin to fill you back up. And we know that love is the healing action of life. And we know that if we say that God is all there is, this essence and energy of life is all there is, then there's room for the grief, the sorrow, the rage, the tears, the emerging joy, the hope, the helplessness. It's all God. It's part of our wholeness, and wholeness is the truth of who we are. And if there's room in it for me, then I have room for yours. I can sit with you. I can bear witness. I can listen. None of us can fix it for another, but we can all be with one another. And that in itself is part of that expression of Spirit's wholeness, one connected to another in love. Now, as we feel whole, we show up differently in the world, right? If I'm having a bad day and you're around me, you're going to have a bad day too, because I'm going to share it with you. But if I am feeling my own wholeness, if I am feeling anchored, if I am centered in a greater truth, no matter how much I may grieve or how much I may be angry or how happy I may be, I'm going to show up in my world differently because I am standing in my power. I'm more patient, I'm kinder, I'm more aware. And that awareness gives me a little bit of clarity about what is mine to do. Because grief doesn't just transform me and how I see or feel my own life. Grief also changes my world. Not the whole world right away, but my world, my family, my friends, my circumstances, my beliefs. But you know, I can't do everything. You know, I'm not a marcher. It's not my thing. But that doesn't mean there isn't something for me to do. Something just as unique to me as my grieving process is to me. Each one of us has something that we feel passionate enough about to be part of a peacemaking in this life. And that is what we are called to do. What Anne Lamott called the next right thing. She says, maybe we register voters in March. We buy or cook a bunch of food for the local homeless. We return phone calls, library books, smiles. We donate money. We practice radical self-care and say hello gently to everyone, even strange, lonely people who scare us. We go to the market and flirt with the old people who seem lonely. It can't be enough, but it will be. It will be. So if you're not a marcher, maybe you're a shopper. Maybe you're the one that goes to Michael's and gets the poster board and the markers and everything needed to make the signs for the marchers to carry. And maybe you're a letter writer. Maybe you've got something to say to the politicians in a letter. But maybe you're not a letter writer. But you know what? I bet if you were part of a group that was doing some kind of service, maybe you wouldn't write the letter, but maybe you'd be the one willing to take it to the post office and mail it. There's no big and small or small in God. There's no bonus points for doing the big things, although they're the most visible. What there is a path forward of healing for you individually, for me individually, for us collectively, when we do something with intention. When we move forward in our values, when we take action based on the principles that we live by. So your call is to allow to surface in you what is your action to take. And that is what gives us back that power within us, that feeling of knowing who we are, that as hard as the circumstances are, I can do something. And this is what I'm doing today, this moment, right now. Maybe it's stepping in between your grandkids when they start to fight, because you know they always do, and really teaching them how to resolve an argument without coming to blows. Won't that serve them well in life? Maybe the next time that cranky relative stands up to give their usual political speech at the Thanksgiving table, inappropriate to everything else that's going on, maybe there's a way that you can show up and stand up and derail that, deflect that. Speak your truth rather than keeping silence. Maybe there's a way to act out the change that happens within you. The rest of Amanda Gorman's poem says, may we not just grieve, but give. May we not just ache, but act. May our signed right to bear arms never blind our sight from shared harm. May we choose our children over chaos. May another innocent never be lost. Maybe everything hurts, our hearts shadowed and strange, but only when everything hurts may everything change. This awareness, we can't unknow what's happened in our world, but we can also know that who we are is beyond and greater than what is happening in this world. That love wins, that grace always comes through, that there is a way forward for each of us. Richard Rohr writes, the great wisdom traditions are all trying to teach us that grief isn't something to run from. It's a liminal space, a time of transformation, a new form being generated. So we can't help but be different. It's just that our spiritual perspective reminds us that that difference is evolutionary. It's that ever upward spiral that Ernest Holmes talks about. And what is it that we want most when we're grieving? When we're feeling disempowered, when we've got rage and nowhere to put it, and anger and sorrow and tears that don't seem appropriate out in public. And what is it that we're really looking for? It's kindness. It's someone reaching out. It's someone through their actions saying, I see you. I'm here for you. So in my own personal grieving process, I lost my mother a couple months ago. Right about now, pretty much anything can bring me to tears. It's just sort of always right there. And I've experienced a couple different kinds of kindness. Now, some of it has been very direct. So many kind words, so many cards, emails, letters, people being of service, just the physical act of putting together a celebration of life in this very room. Feeding us, calling, checking on us. These are the things that were supportive and nourishing and uplifting for me in the hardest days. But there's a lot of indirect kindnesses that happen too. Pat and I were running errands. We pulled up in front of the dry cleaners in the morning, went to drop off some more clothes. They weren't open for another half hour. But we've been clients here for 10 years or more. And the woman inside saw her come up, saw that it was us, opened the door, took our stuff, closed the door behind us. She didn't have to do that. Brought me to tears then too, right? Just people being nice. My physical therapist, I've been getting my knee, this one over here, see, I can't talk about it without moving it. She's just been a gem. Besides being highly skilled, she responds to the emotional state that I'm in when I come into therapy. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but when you move your body, your emotions start to show up. They kind of go together, right? Mind-body connection. You all with me there? Okay. She doesn't have to do that. She could just focus on the exercise. But she doesn't. She sees me. And that is a kindness. When we see each other, when we recognize that that's a person that we're walking by, we've done a service for them and for ourselves. But my favorite act of kindness recently was the man at the gas station. So I pulled in to get gas. I usually use my debit card. I have it on Apple Pay on my phone. So you push the little button twice and it shows up and you get your gas, except that I've been having trouble with my debit card. It was falling apart. It was cheaply made and just unraveling. And I wasn't able to use it. And they sent me a new one. It was supposed to be the same number and it got all messed up and I couldn't use my debit card. And then they said they fixed it. And so I went to use it to get gas and it didn't work. And I thought, I don't have time for this today. I've got enough to get where I'm going. I'm just going to go. So I got back in my car. I'm pulling out of the gas station, and I see somebody come up on the side of my car and tap on the roof. So, of course, I jump 50 feet, and then I look to see who it is. And here's this man, and he's letting me know that my gas cap is open. I hadn't put it back together when all upset and frustrated out back in my car. And then he says silently, "Do you want me to close it up for you?" It's like, "Oh, thank you. Yes, thank you." So he closes it up for me, pats my car again, gives me a thumbs up and a smile, and goes back to his car. So there I am sitting in the driveway of the gas station trying to make my right turn, and I'm crying because he was nice. He probably didn't give it another thought, but he changed my day. He touched my heart. So I want you to know there is no such thing as a small act of kindness. There is no such thing as not doing enough. There's no such thing as not being able to make a difference in the world. You do. You are. Just by your nature, you must. So first, we feel, we grieve, we allow the grieving to do its work. Secondly, we pause and take care of ourselves. We rest. We allow our path forward to emerge because it will come up inside of us. We will feel a pull to do something, to be somewhere, to have that conversation, to help the kids, to help each other. And third, be kind. Be kind to yourself in this time. Be kind to others. Allow that kindness to be your expression of spirit in the world, no matter what this is of the day. Never doubt yourself and the power of your own acts of kindness or your acts of justice or your acts of connection or building relationship. Never doubt that that's not enough, that that's enough or not. It is. You are, always. And so I close with one more poem. This one by John Rodell. When the world goes mad, Become wildly kind to everyone. 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 My love, you can't control much, but you control how you treat others. In these breaking news, heartbreaking times, when nothing feels certain, let your raw kindness be a certainty. Allow your compassion to become a north star, stamped up in the sky for others to follow back home. Namaste. Let's go to prayer. There is a spirit of life that is in and through each one of us. An energy that is love in action, love in form. It is a deep joy and a great wisdom. It is ultimately a balance and an order and a perfect unfolding of life. And this life, this one mind, this consciousness of all that is the very mind that I am, that I use, that I live and move and have my being in. And as it is true for me, it is true for everyone. This one energy of life, this divine love, this power of peace and wisdom is within and around each one of us. And as I grow in my awareness of this power and all that it is, as I grow in my awareness of this power within me and all that I am, I speak my word for the wholeness to be expressed as me in this world. For I know that in my own wholeness I shine a light. And just as I seek others who shine their lights, others will seek me. And as I stand in the power of life itself, shining that light, joining together with others who see it, who shine it, who know it for themselves, together we lift up and light up the world. It has always been so. And there is an infinite path forward for greater and greater expression. So I know in those moments of fear and doubt and anger, in those moments of great joy and love and delight, that Spirit is present, that God is, that life moves and expresses through and as each of us, all for love. And where it does not seem to be love or look like love, I feel the love that I might bring it, that I might see it in you and call it forth. And that as I call it forth in others, they in turn call it forth, and healing happens. We are always healed by this love. So I speak my word for a greater opening for love. Through every action, large or small, mine or yours, noticeable or unseen, that it all works together for good, for it is all God. I am grateful that this is so. Grateful to know the love that heals. Grateful to be the conduit of Spirit in all of its many ways. And I simply let this be, knowing it is done. And so it is. Let's say our affirmation together, if you will. It's in your program. I'll read a sentence and ask you to read it after me so that our friends online can join in. Today I pause to feel my way on the heart's path. Today I pause to feel my way on the heart's path. I allow the energy of love to transform my grief. I allow the energy of love to transform my grief into my own way forward. All is well. And so it is. All right. We invite Drac back up for a second musical interlude.
So today I'm on 5 hours of sleep because, quite honestly, last night I was at the hospital with a family during the process of the death of their little girl, and she did pass away. We prayed together, we cried together. The reason I share this is because I have witnessed countless times the amazing resilience of people and their capacity for transformation in that beginning of that upward spiral that Reverend Tracy spoke about. It's miraculous. You never get used to it, but the miracle is palpable. So this piece I'm going to play is actually about that spiral, and when I wrote it as a younger person, I didn't have the words for that, but that is precisely what this is about.
Lovely. Thank you. Okay, let's see. We have a different kind of Wednesday night. We have Wednesday Night Gateway is going to be facilitated by Reverend Jan Chase. She's the minister at Unity of Pomona. And one of the things that she is passionate about, to our benefit, is a technique called sky breath, sky breathing. And it is a physical way of bringing your mental and spiritual self into a place of calmness. It's just a little tiny bit about it. I know this is the technique that they use at the police department, right? It's to de-escalate situations. And so the Pomona Police Department uses this technique as part of their police training. Hello, what a concept. We can de-escalate, you know. So this technique it's very well known, it's very widespread, and it's happening here on Wednesday night. So I would encourage you to come. If you have never come to a Wednesday night before, this is a great week to start, because it'll be something that you can participate in, learn a little something about, have a little fun with, and it'll just give us something else to talk about on Sundays, right? So this is a good thing. So I invite you to come. Service starts at 7. If you come earlier, if you come by 6:15, Nisa has guided meditation in the practitioner room right here off the foyer, and that leads into the 7 o'clock service. So it's a great way to spend a Wednesday night with a few of your closest friends, learning something new, and, keeping those brain synapses going on something that will be useful to you. That's what we're looking for. We want practical spirituality, not just, words from me up here. Not that I don't enjoy speaking, but, it's really about you. It's all about you. So do come on Wednesday night. That is going to be just amazing. So I invite you to do that. And I think that's all I have for announcements. Oh, I will remind you that we thank you for your donations. The baskets are in the back of the room on your way out the door, or for those of you online on our website or in our email e-blast. I would also invite you to make a prayer request if you'd like support, or someone in your family would like support. We have a request box up here. We have a confidential message box on our phone line. If you call our main number, you can leave a request, or you can talk to our practitioners here today, and they would be happy to pray with you and know the truth for you in whatever it is that you're going through. Or email, of course. There's every way you can. But do take advantage of that. Prayer is a good thing. And I can personally tell you that prayer works. Just saying. If you're not sure, ask me. I'll be happy to tell you all about it. All right, I also want to just remind you, my friends, to be cautious with your health, that the numbers are going up just a bit with COVID. If you are vulnerable or you are around people who are vulnerable, I invite you to continue to wear your mask. When we finish inside here, if you want to have a nice long conversation with somebody up close and personal, step outside, give yourself a little fresh air. We're just taking precautions. We're just doing the best we can for a little bit longer. So, and if somebody comes in to give you a big hug because they love you and that's just not where you are today, remember, you put up one finger and you just say, I'm loving you from afar. Thank you. Okay? So no judgment here. Do it what's best for you, but just keep in mind that that extra bit of caution goes a long way. All right, everyone, I love you all. Let's stand up, make a little circle around the room, and feel the love in the sanctuary with Eddie Watkins Jr.
Take a look at the person next to you and say, God loves you and I love you too. Now feel the love in the sanctuary. Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together, 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 we come together. In the name of love, from every walk of life, every walk of life, every creed and color, every creed and color. In kinship we unite, in honor of the God in each other. won't waste one more minute of my life. I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste, I won't waste one